Welcome, everyone. Zcash surprised nearly the entire crypto market over the last 24 hours with a sharp and aggressive move to the upside, surging almost 14% in a single day and pushing price action toward the $456 region. This wasn't just a quiet grind higher or a slow technical recovery, it was a decisive expansion move that immediately put Zcash back on traders' radars and positioned it as one of the strongest performers among major privacy-focused cryptocurrencies. What makes this move especially interesting is that it did not come out of nowhere, nor does it appear to be purely speculative noise. Instead, this price expansion seems to be the result of pressure that has been building quietly beneath the surface for weeks, finally expressing itself in the chart. In this video, we're going to break down what's actually driving this move, why the timing matters, and how both fundamentals and narrative shifts are beginning to align with price behavior. We'll walk through the behind-the-scenes developments that many traders overlooked, explain why privacy coins are suddenly being reevaluated by the broader market, and discuss what participants are watching next as Zcash approaches important psychological zones. This is not about hype or prediction. It's about understanding structure, context, and why price is reacting the way it is right now. A 14% move in 24 hours is notable on its own, but it becomes far more meaningful when it occurs in a market environment that has been selective and cautious. Zcash isn't a low-liquidity microcap that can spike on thin volume. It's a long-standing privacy project with deep history, strong cryptographic foundations, and a community that has lived through multiple cycles. When an asset like that makes a sudden and forceful move, it usually signals that something has shifted either in sentiment, narrative, or participation. And in this case, there are clear signs that all three may be in play simultaneously. What stands out immediately is that this move did not follow a prolonged period of aggressive hype or social media speculation. Instead, Zcash had been quietly consolidating while attention remained focused elsewhere. This kind of price behavior often suggests accumulation rather than distribution, where positioning happens before the broader market reacts. When price finally breaks away from that equilibrium, it tends to do so quickly, catching late participants off guard. That dynamic alone helps explain why the move felt sudden to many traders watching from the sidelines. One of the most important factors contributing to this rally is the renewed development momentum within the Zcash ecosystem itself. Over the past several weeks, Zcash developers have been intensifying their focus on improving privacy functionality, with particular emphasis on shielded transactions and faster approval systems. These aren't cosmetic upgrades. They directly address long-standing concerns around usability, scalability, and efficiency that have followed Zcash since the last market cycle. The Halo Arc-related improvements, which previously faded from market attention, are starting to gain traction again. These upgrades aim to reduce computational overhead, streamline privacy-preserving transactions, and make the network lighter and more accessible without compromising its cryptographic integrity. For a privacy-focused blockchain, this balance is critical. Privacy alone is not enough if it comes at the cost of speed, accessibility, or user experience. By addressing these bottlenecks, Zcash becomes more practical for real-world usage rather than remaining a niche ideological asset. This shift matters because markets tend to reprice assets when utility improves. When a network becomes more scalable and efficient, it lowers friction for users, developers, and institutions alike. That, in turn, changes how the asset is perceived, not just as a speculative vehicle, but as infrastructure. Traders are beginning to recognize that these technical improvements are not theoretical anymore. They are gradually being reflected in adoption potential, and price is starting to respond accordingly. Beyond internal development, Zcash is also benefiting from a much broader narrative shift happening across the digital asset landscape. Global conversations around privacy have been intensifying as governments and regulators increase oversight of blockchain activity. While regulation itself is not new, the pace and scope of enforcement discussions have changed how market participants think about financial autonomy, surveillance, and transaction transparency. Historically, privacy coins tend to move when these conversations resurface, and Zcash often becomes one of the first beneficiaries. This is largely due to its reputation as one of the most established and academically grounded privacy blockchain in the space. When privacy becomes a focal point, capital tends to flow toward projects with credibility rather than experimental alternatives, and Zcash fits that profile. What's important here is not just where price is, but how it got there. Strong impulsive moves typically suggest conviction rather than exhaustion, especially when they occur alongside narrative and fundamental support. However, impulsive moves also tend to invite reactions, pauses, consolidations, or pullbacks as the market digests new information. That digestion phase is often where structure is built for the next move, whether continuation or retracement. At this stage, traders are closely watching how price behaves around these Geikel-Psycholo zones. Does momentum slow, suggesting profit-taking and short-term exhaustion?